How much do you think that social media plays a role in people feeling bad about feeling bad because they're looking at everyone else's life and they're saying, well, this person's on a yacht in Dubai and this person is hanging out in Costa Rica with monkeys. Their lives seem pretty good. What am I doing here lonely? How much do you think that plays a part?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to quantify it exactly, but I mean, there's no way it doesn't play some role there. And I think I don't know that it's so specific as like, yeah, if I was just working harder, I'd be able to afford a yacht too. I think it's a little bit more subtle in terms of everyone else just generally seems to be doing okay. In other words, it's not that they have a yacht, it's that they're smiling. Every single photo, they're smiling, right? Or like they and their spouse are always together smiling and they just look super happy all the time. And like, but what's wrong with me and my spouse? Like we're fighting again, like there must be something really wrong with us. So it's really like a selection effect. It's a selection bias where social media makes it really easy to filter out all the negative stuff and present only the good stuff. And if you're in that world and you're not careful, if you're not constantly sort of reminding yourself, I'm sure like that glamorous like celebrity or influencer, they have fights with their boyfriend and girlfriend too sometimes. And that's just hard to do. So yeah, I think it definitely plays a role. You can't help but fall into that comparison trap sometimes, unless you're super careful and conscientious about how you curate sort of your social media life. I mean, it's one of the reasons why the only real social media platform I use is Twitter, because I feel like I have much more control over being able to curate what I get exposed to, between sort of like muting and blocking and following and unfollowing and then lists. Like you can really, if you're conscientious about it, you can really exert a lot of control. And it seems to me that you just don't have as much control with other platforms. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but to answer your question, for sure.
What are you looking for when you're curating your feed on social media? What type of person are you looking to follow or looking to hear more from?
Yeah, so I think there's a few principles. The first is just like interesting. Like, are they just intellectually stimulating? Like that's just like the first one. Do they pretty consistently put out things that make me think? The close second is probably helpful. Like, are they just like very pragmatically helpful and valuable? Do they offer like just, I don't know, whether it's like tips or good advice or windows into their own processes and how stuff's working? Like that's really big. And then I think like this is not something I necessarily think of like before I follow someone. This is something I think of after I'm following someone. If there starts to be a pretty high percentage of me seeing that person and through no fault of their own, it starts to play mind games with me. Like I find myself feeling guilty or like doing a lot of comparisons, or then I know that I put them on a different list, or maybe I mute them for a while, or I mean, if it's really bad, maybe I'll just unfollow them altogether. But I think it's kind of a bigger mindset thing of social media it's a tool that you ideally are using and monitoring proactively. Right. And if you're doing that, I think it's amazing. Like I love social media for the most part, but I think it's because I'm relatively good at filtering out the ones that would play on my weaknesses and being conscientious about how I use the ones that I do use. And it's hard. It's a big ask. I think it's taken me a long time to figure out how to do that.